I'm Val Geist. This month, we'll celebrate Earth Day all over the world. Here in northeastern Pennsylvania, Mother Nature has blessed us with one of the most beautiful natural settings anywhere to live and play in. But we're in grave danger of losing our environment to global warming. With the help of the folks at Pennfuture, I'm going to spend the next few weeks showing you how the energy we use indoors today affects the great outdoors tomorrow.
We think global warming is the single biggest threat to certainly the state's natural resources, to the public lands, to our forests and fields and wildlife. It is absolutely the biggest threat that we see on the horizon.
I'm very concerned about global warming. It represents a threat to our economy. Every aspect of the way we've built our economic systems depends on reliable weather systems and patterns, whether it's agriculture or some of our most advanced technologies. We know what happens when a Katrina hits. Any way you slice it, global warming is a problem, and we really need to take it seriously and take it on.
The science has told us that we've already had about a 1.5-degree increase over the past 100 years. We can expect 7-degree increase over the next 100 if we do nothing about it. If we do something about it, we can maybe keep it to 2%.
Well, let's look at some of the driving forces in terms of where climate change comes on the scene as a problem. It mostly is a problem because of some of the pollution we generate, and specifically the pollution that comes from various energy sources that come from fossil fuels. Now, a big piece, 80% of our electricity comes from fossil fuels, and probably 95% or more of our transportation energy comes from fossil fuels. Those are the fuels, when they're burned, they create gases, which are the greenhouse gases that lead to global warming pollution.
Pennsylvania emits as much carbon dioxide as the 10 New England and Middle Atlantic states combined. That's how important we are to the global warming fight. Coal has been critical to Pennsylvania. 100 years ago, we built this economy on coal, and it's going to have a piece of the future. However, we've had some costs to pay for that. This is an example of some of the cost. We have vast coal piles that are the refuse piles. We have a Rust Belt image. When I fish in upstate New York, I have lakes that I can't fish in because they're dead lakes. And the air pollution from the coal-fired generation contaminates those lakes.
Acid rain is created by pollutants released into the atmosphere, primarily from coal burning and fossil fuel burning power plants. Those plants release sulfur and nitrogen into the atmosphere. They combine with water vapor in the clouds, and that creates a mild sulfuric acid solution and nitric acid solution. Normal pH for rainfall, unpolluted rainfall, is somewhere around 5.5. When acid rain falls, it's usually in the 4.0 to 4.5 range, which is about 10 times more acidic than regular rainfall. It causes some damage to streams in Pennsylvania, depending on the geology of the watershed. Bowman's Creek down the road is a good example, where the geology is basically infertile. It doesn't have a lot of buffering capacity. And then when you put acid rain on top of that, the streams become so acidified that it's difficult for fish to live in them.
And it's not just the coal power plants that are causing problems.
From an environmental point of view, nuclear energy is a mixed bag. On the one hand, what comes out the smokestack, if you will, or really the cooling tower in a nuclear plant, is just water vapor. And so it's not the pollution that has been the black soot or the other kinds of pollution that's led to ozone problems, for example, or now to climate change. On the other hand, we have a huge environmental challenge with nuclear energy, specifically with respect to the waste materials that come out of a nuclear plant. Those materials are radioactive. They'll be radioactive for thousands and thousands of years. Where do we put those materials? How do we handle them so that they do not present a public health or an environmental safety problem? Where do we put those materials so that they don't present a national security problem in getting into the wrong hands?
The new threats that we're looking at are pretty significant threats. The first is fairly straightforward. We no longer have cheap energy. It's not just gasoline and home heating oil, but it's our electric power too. Here in Northeast Pennsylvania, the rate caps that have been in place for 10 years will be lifted in just 20 months. When we saw that in Delaware, it was 57% increases, Maryland 70% increases. Here I'm expecting 30 or 40 and then going from there. Energy security issues. When I wake up in the morning and I hear about Iraq, you know, that to me is an energy issue. And it relates to what we're talking about here. But most importantly is the climate issue that you're focused on. And this is the issue that I think is the most profound issue that at least we're facing in my lifetime.
Clearly, the impacts of global warming are daunting. In fact, they get scarier. The more you read, the world is actually running ahead of the worst case scenarios of global warming modeling. So if anything, it's worse than people are saying.